Outlander has returned this week with episode 10 of season 7, and did we all hear that right? Jamie could well be dead. If that is true, then that would be a really shocking start to this season of the show. However, I don't think the show would kill Jamie off screen like that. So I think we're safe for now. With an ending that put Claire's life at risk following her being found out to be a spy, the stakes are the highest that they've been in a long while. The episode started with a death and it also finished with a death, and the brotherly love title was at the heart of it, with Jamie being alongside Ian as he drew his last breath and as Lord John Grey looked to marry Claire as duty to his dear friend Jamie. So with that, let's jump into this episode and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is Outlander Season 7 Episode 10 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Claire. During this episode, we saw that Claire was en route to Philadelphia in order to help Lord John Grey's cousin, Henry, who'd been wounded in battle. This meant that she had to leave Jamie in Scotland in order to do so, but he was planning on going to Paris to visit Joan at her convent and then eventually seek passageway to Philadelphia where he'd be reunited with Claire. There was a poignant moment at the beginning of the episode where Claire called out that the British soldiers weren't too concerned about women entering the city as spies. However, those very words came back to bite her because there was a warrant for her arrest following her delivering a note for mercy when she was unable to do so because she was also unsafe and risked being caught. We saw that Jamie wrote to Claire several weeks prior to the time period that we were in, and he said that he was sailing for Philadelphia. However, he hadn't arrived yet, but it meant that he was due any day. With him being absent, it planted the very idea that something could have gone wrong on his journey. This was actually the case, as in the climax of the episode, Claire found out that Jamie's ship, the Usurper, was lost at sea with all hands, and there was a search that took place for 2 days which yielded no findings. This is something that was an emotionally shattering moment for Claire, and it was heartbreaking just watching her break down and question if the very man that she loved had died. We saw the wave that took the ship down, and it was a force of nature, and one that looked like it would be difficult to survive if caught up in a storm. Claire said that she felt as though she would have known if Jamie had died, and I also think the same as well. They're deeply connected through time, and I genuinely think that there would have been a sign to her if he did die. Personally, I don't think he's dead. And if you don't want spoilers for the novel, then click ahead to this time period. Here's your countdown. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, within the novel, it turns out that Jamie didn't actually get on the Usurper. He wrote to Claire to say that he'd be getting on it and that he'd let her know if his plans changed. And that's exactly what happened. He never got on the ship. However, he didn't inform her of his change of plans, and Claire obviously didn't know. This would explain why it is that he's believed to be dead, because the plans changed and his name was still on the list of people that were supposed to originally be on the ship. So I'm imagining that's probably going to be the case within the TV series as well. The final thing that we saw with Claire was that she was being told by Lord John Grey that she needed to marry him whilst she was in her state of mourning. This was because there was a warrant for her arrest, and if she didn't marry him, then they'd execute her, Ian, Rachel, Mercy, and other people that she cared for. This was because the city that was under British occupation would view them as rebellions. Lord John Grey feels as though he's doing this as his duty to Jamie, and ties back to the title of the episode, Brotherly Love. Claire didn't care about being saved because Jamie was obviously now dead to her. But the idea of the people that she loved being killed due to her actions was something that's probably going to make her go through with it. Ian, Rachel, and Archie Bug. Within this episode, Ian found out that his father had died, and by the end of the episode, he'd come to terms with what happened because he knew that him going to Philadelphia and finding Rachel was exactly what his father would have wanted for him. Rachel and Ian were reunited in this episode in deadly circumstances. Archie Bug wanted to take revenge on Ian for killing his wife in the early parts of Season 7, and he planned on getting that revenge by killing Rachel and making Ian watch. However, the plan backfired when William walked in and killed Archie Bug as he was about to deliver a fatal blow to Ian. So William quite literally saved Ian's life, the very person that was standing in the way of him and Rachel being together, because it was clear to see that William was slowly falling for her. There was a metaphor that Rachel spoke to Ian about where she said that he was essentially like Rollo. This came after Ian said that he didn't want to be a Quaker and not mean the words that he was saying to her, because deep down he was a warrior. This was where Rachel then compared Ian to Rollo the wolf, in that he can go out to hunt at night, but as well as that, he was a soft, caring, and loyal individual. Now that Archie Bug is out of the picture, there aren't really any immediate threats that are in their way of having a happy life together, other than the fact that war is on the horizon as winter is coming to an end. So it will be interesting to see how that impacts their love for one another moving forward. Roger and Buck. Roger and Buck had a massive revelation in this week's episode of the show. Roger was still looking for his son, Jeremiah, who he believed went through the stones with Rob Cameron. After taking Buck to Galis Duncan, Buck's mother, he soon realized that Galis wasn't working with Rob Cameron. Instead, we heard of a ferryman that was in the land, and it was originally perceived to be Rob Cameron. However, because there was no young boy with him, it made me question if it was actually going to be him. And it turned out that it wasn't. Dougal Mackenzie appeared in the 1739 timeline, and he handed Roger some military tags which had J. Cameron on. This was where the plot thickened, because Roger said how they belonged to his father who went missing in action in World War II and was never seen again. It looks like Roger's father, Jeremiah, actually ended up going back in time and finding himself in 1739. So Roger is most likely going to be reunited with his father for the first time in several years, a couple of hundred years in the past. A moment that will definitely be interesting to see. Could his father have gone through the stones, or could he have found a force of energy like Bree found, which could have shifted him back in time? This is now making it seem like Rob Cameron and Jeremiah never went back in time. They haven't been spotted by anybody, and it feels like they definitely would have done by now. Plus, like Roger said, the Jacobite gold isn't even where it should be because they're 40 years too early. So I think Rob Cameron and Jeremiah might be a little bit closer to home, unless they did end up going back to the 1770s. My review of the episode. I thought this was a really good episode of the show. It was one that was full of events, even though there weren't any battles. We got to see the sneakiness of Claire and it coming back to get her, characters being reunited, which allowed us to get a wholesome feeling. Plus, we saw familiar faces also arriving on screen, such as Lord John, Rachel, and Archie Bug. Archie Bug's performance was one that was really strong. Everything about the character just ties into the evil persona that he has. The appearance, the mannerisms, the tone of voice, and most importantly, how the actor delivers his lines. He's so haunting and menacing to listen to, and you could hear the pain that he had in his voice over the fact that he lost his wife, but also that burning rage and the desire to get revenge on Ian. The story was really well paced, and we got to spend a fair chunk of time between the different time periods, something which allowed both parts of the story to develop quite nicely. I thought the brotherly love element being at the core of this episode and connecting to the title was really smart. Whether that be the flashback at the beginning, Jamie and Ian as he died, William and Ian as he saved him from Archie Bug, and Lord John and Jamie as he saved Claire from being arrested. It was a clear theme in the episode, and I liked that it was consistent. Ian's death was actually a moment that I thought was quite emotional. Just seeing how it made Jamie feel and the fact that his last word was the name of his wife, it was just really sad. I also thought that the scene where Claire found out that Jamie had died was one that was emotional too. Seeing her state afterwards and watching her in mourning was a side to Claire that we hadn't really seen before, so you could feel the pain that she was going through. It's looking like this season is shaping up to be a really exciting one, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. So, there you have it, Outlander Season 7 Episode 10, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on Outlander Season 7, then click on the card in the top corner. There's an entire playlist there. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. What did you think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.